All right. You're live on YouTube. Yay. I expect you to start singing now, Ken. Isn't that what people do? All right. I guess I'll go ahead and get it started. I sent out the agenda to everybody. And first thing I had on there was a recap of the Sunnymead parking issue. For those that don't remember, since it's been a while, that was, we had a complaint from the resident there close to Dixie Highway on Sunnymead about parking, and it seemed to be, it was local restaurant employees that were parking in front of his house, and he was concerned about some of the site distance and passing issues there. That issue's corrected itself for now, obviously with the restaurant staffing being way lower. You know, I did drive through the area back when it was an issue. And I think we had some discussions on, you know, could we push the parking back a little bit? My notes say that we basically decided to sort of see if it corrected itself when Lakeside reopened their city building. It's like Katie's calling in now. I'm going to let her in. And so I think we just haven't had a chance to look at it since that happened. Katie, can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we're just doing a little bit of a recap of our last meeting right now.
Okay.
Anyway, so I think the Sunnymead issue is just not really something.
An issue right now?
Yeah. I just think we gotta wait until things get back to normal. So next thing I had on the agenda was comments from guests. And other than Katie, who's here for a specific purpose, we have no guests. So unless Tim's looking over her shoulder, I don't know if there's somebody.
Just making sure.
Okay. And I didn't get any emails or anything in advance. So the next thing I have then is the Beechwood Road study update. So I know this is not fresh on any of our minds right now, so I apologize for the delay in time that we've had here and getting back into meeting. Mike Yeager, you sent out an email. I don't know if you sent that to just me or everybody earlier today that had some of our last thoughts. And to be honest, I did not get a chance to go back through my messages to see, Katie, where I left off with you on this, but I think we had a few more suggestions after your the last round that you sent to us. And I think it's all pretty minor stuff. So if I'm looking at the plans here, Mike, you have on alternative 1B and 1D, consider removing or at least reducing the 2-foot gutters to lessen the amount of private property that would be impacted.
Yeah, and so we talked about that a little bit with Matt last meeting, and he was okay with that as long as we increased the crown of the road to make sure all the drains would stay more in the gutter line. And Katie, that comment was really just trying to anticipate what the residents are going to say about this. So I think any way we can minimize the amount of yard we're taking, I think the better the chances that this is going to be, you know, successful. So that was just one thing. And so if we have a 10-foot lane and 2-foot gutter pan, it may end up being where we don't reduce traffic too much either. Just it'll kind of almost function as a 12-foot lane. So just trying to figure out a way to narrow that up some.
Okay. And that was for all alternates, or was that relative to what alternative did you say?
1E is in boy, 1D is in dog.
Okay.
What I have on the list.
And it looked like on the one side, the gutter pan was 2 feet, but then it was only like a 6-foot parking lane. So that the gutter counted as part of the 8-foot parking lane. But on the other side, it looked like it was 10 feet plus the gutter.
Right.
So it may just be on the one side. We may only gain a foot or whatever, but.
Okay.
And then typical sections. I'm sorry, I'm just looking through.
Yeah, the second one really was, so I think all the dimensions on the typical sections are good, but when I'm just trying to look at it from the resident's point of view again, I think when they see it, I think they're just gonna wanna know what the distance is between where their yard starts now and where it's gonna start. So on the sections where we're gonna widen, like I think if you can say, here's where the curb is now and here's where the proposed curb is gonna be, I think that's the dimension they're gonna look for. So if that's 3 feet or 4 feet or 5 feet. And then on the examples where you're gonna add sidewalk too, then maybe it's, here's the backup curb today and the new proposed backup sidewalk is so many feet beyond that.
Okay.
That's just an idea. I don't know what the rest of the group thinks about that, but
I agree. That is going to be one of the things, and that's
Mhm.
probably the easiest thing to point out to the residents too. Is you can talk about the overall width of the road, or width of lanes and stuff like that, and some of that. Hopefully, some of them get that the lanes being narrower is going to slow traffic down. But ultimately, when it comes to understanding the concept of the where it's going to fall, a distance from something that's known to them now will, I think, help.
Yeah.
I
that would
agree.
be easy to put on here.
yeah, so I think it's important for us to know like existing right of way, proposed right of way, but that's not gonna, at the end of the day, they're gonna have grass up to wherever we start, and that's kind of what they're gonna worry about.
Okay.
On 2C, there was basically not showing widening, not increasing parking. Trying to get that one pulled up real quick. I apologize.
Yeah, so 2C is really from the school down to Thompson, and so that 2C is widening on the north side, so on the school side to get the parking lane. And I think early on we had talked about not needing to add parking in that bend, really from the school down to DeVille, just because there's not a whole lot of need for it there, and then also just traffic's kind of slow through there already anyway.
Right.
So I think that's still shown on the plans, but I'm not sure that we need it there.
So like between DeVille and Page, eliminate that section.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was really all the comments I had. I think it looks, you guys did a really good job, Katie. I think they.
Thanks, thank you. The one thing I was gonna do a little cleanup on, and maybe you're not even looking at that, is my memo that kind of summarizes everything. I talked about some of the goals, and I talked about reducing speed and improving safety for pedestrians. And then you'll notice on, I think all of these, I've got a few intersections just kind of bubbled. And I talk about reconstructing the intersection area with a different pavement color or texture. What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't have that identified in my memo, so I'll either add it to my memo to include it, or I can pull it off of these concept plans if you think it's not necessary. I think it was more about providing traffic calming and maybe giving a focus on those intersections.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that, and I think
we want to include that.
Okay, so I'll just add some language in that memo to it, make sure I include that.
Okay.
Okay.
So then really, I think from a committee standpoint, once those changes are made, we're to the point of talking public opinion.
Okay.
I think we have some, we've got a framework for that from other things that we've done, but we also, I guess, sort of, we have a concept of where that'll go as well. So I just, we did that with Highland, and, basically we got a lot of feedback that was, yes, we realize there's a problem. No, we don't like your solution. So I think, I don't know, what do you think the lessons are we've learned from that Is there a way we can frame this, or a different way we can have the public input to, is it better to do smaller groups? Is it, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how we can kind of explain how we got to where we're at.
Right.
Maybe that helps get
Well, I mean, I would think as far as timing, like I would wait until September to present this to the residents, simply because just there's a lot going on with like school and start of school, presuming that happens. So as far as getting a lot of people, or enough people up there to attend, I don't know. I would just suggest September. And I also think we've already, people complain about Beechwood Road constantly, but I think there's going to be some selective memory because there hasn't been any issues since probably February or March, because life sort of stood still. And maybe when things start moving, you know what I mean? It'll be a reminder. So as far as timing, I would want to wait until September to do anything. Now, I don't know if it makes a difference if we have small groups or one big group. I mean, I guess sometimes there's that mob mentality, but maybe it makes sense to have smaller smaller meetings with each section of the road. You know what I mean? To get buy-in from Dixie to the school, from here to there, with those residents first. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know either. I guess I'm just trying to think of the ones we've done in the past. We've done like put the plans up on a board and have people with sticky notes to kind of vote, or sticky notes to make comments. And they've generally been...
I'm not really looking for anybody to vote on this the way the Highland thing was. I'm not gonna. Because I think if we always have that mentality, we'll never get anything done.
Right.
I would almost just like to hear like a general consensus kind of thing versus 20 against and 19, for, or something like that. I don't know that that's how I want to make the decision to move forward.
I think the reality, and obviously this is easy for me to say since I'm not an elected official in the city, but the reality is on a project of this scale, I mean, number one, we have to figure out the cost and find out where it fits in the budget. But ultimately, there's probably gonna have to be a decision made that's not going to make everyone happy.
Sure.
And, we just have to find a way to explain that it is the best decision that we can make, or best use of our resources and best way to design the road to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. Because I think most people are on board with the idea of what needs to be accomplished anyway.
Yeah. Do we have any, I think it probably makes sense as we're presenting this is, hey, the reason we're doing this is how many of these kids walk to school? The sidewalk is not big enough. There's been a couple of near misses with kids getting hit, accidents in general. And just, overall, any feedback that we've had from residents that desire the walkability and complain about speed in that area,
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the speed numbers, and we can, from the police department standpoint, keep deploying our signs and our stealth stat there to, capture the data. Obviously, we have the one,
and that at some point, Drawbridge will be redeveloped. And I mean, kind of getting ahead of any of that now with this project. We're trying to. I mean, the goal of this is not to keep those people off the road, but we don't want this to be a convenient cut through. And the way our road is designed right now, it is a convenient cut through, because if you don't park on the street certain times of the day, you can just speed through there. And that's what people will do to get to whatever that development is. Frame it in that perspective too, I think. It's already a problem, but what's going to happen when that's developed?
Right.
A couple things too. So we've got a rendering or two. I can't remember, Katie, if we had just one or whatever, but I think that'll help if we can have a really pretty image of what it looks like with utilities being underground and there being cars in the street, and showing, what the impact is there, especially up between Dixie and the school. I think that'll help when we get to the public meeting. But maybe, Kim, was there a few families that kind of started to push for this or were complaining about speed that we could maybe reach out to them first to kind of get their buy-in and help them maybe champion it with their neighbors even before the public meeting?
Yeah, I think I think the houses in the parks have all complained about speeding in the past, and just being, up at 27 Beechwood Road, you know what I mean? When people
Yeah.
are coming down there and just, seeing the speed and hearing people yell. So I think maybe starting with one or two of those families up in that neck of the woods might help.
Okay. I think that would
But
be
yeah, I think
helpful,
mhm.
and
I
maybe
agree. I totally agree.
at the school, just in general, I think in general, people don't want to lose their yard, but like in this case, I know where we're further down on Beechwood Road, but just not having parking is a pain. So I think there's benefits that go with it to kind of, I don't know, even out what the negative side of it is or what the impacts are. So hopefully if we can get some buy-in on that early on, I think that would help.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if the school has any data, I know at the beginning of every school year, at least when my kids were in the elementary, you had to kind of tell them, hey, are you planning on them walking or being picked up? And so I don't know if the school happens to have any data of how many, kids are walking on that sidewalk at a given time, that might remind people of, like, hey, there's 1,000 kids or whatever that walk this sidewalk and it's not really big enough to accommodate them.
I can get that data from the school.
Okay.
I know they keep track of sort of what their average number of walkers is. So.
Okay.
And then we do, I'd have to look at the budget again. I know we spent a significant, but we still have some room left for renderings, and we may just have to. I think we increased it actually, maybe a little bit this year.
I think it's in the scope already, at least one or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Charmin Lee had given me some examples of what she was envisioning, so I can go back and revisit that too. Or if you guys have something specific, I think the one she had given me was up on Dixie, with people and trees and everything.
I think somewhere in that section between Dixie and the school is probably going to be a pretty critical rendering to have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I know the people on the north side of the road are going to have concerns about losing front yard space.
Right.
People on the south side might not have the same concerns, but there's a brand new wall over there and one house and some large trees and things like that. So they're going to want to see that for sure. I think it would be good to detail out probably one of the intersections. And I know one of the things we had talked about, and this is probably one of those wishful thinking things that in reality is probably more expensive than maybe what we would eventually be able to afford. But we had talked about the exit from the elementary school, even doing like a raised intersection there, and potentially having that be the center of that, have a big Beechwood Paul or something in the center of the intersection.
Yeah.
It would have to be brick. I don't know, but maybe something like that, and then probably rendering of the section between DeVille and Thompson, somewhere in there. I mean, I realize it's kind of varied through there, but just again to give people some visual. I do think that's going back to the multi-use path from a few years ago. I don't think we had any renderings or anything like that, and people were envisioning like almost another lane being added down Dixie Highway, and that really wasn't
Right.
But I think people have a hard time sort of getting the concept of a measurement and what it looks like. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and didn't we even talk about before we do this presentation, maybe even going out and marking some of this stuff?
Yeah,
a little bit with like spray paint or something. I don't know.
I think that would be a good idea.
I know I can, reach out to some folks when we're ready to kind of present it before the big meeting. I know I can, set something up where we can maybe present it to these residents and get their buy-in.
I was gonna say, you almost want to do almost like a focus group type thing of let's identify 5 or 6 families on Beechwood, have them come in and say, here's where we're at. Think, is there, as a resident of Beechwood Road, or is there something you feel like we're missing, or that would, if you don't support it, is there something that would make you support it, or
right. I forget their name offhand, but they're the house that's right next to the swim club. It's the White House that they're doing the addition. Their last name begins with a Z. It's like Bill, and she's a physician, I think.
Yep.
I have an email from them, but I think those people would be great to talk to because I think we've heard from them repeatedly about some issues along that stretch of road. And then, like I said, those other two families, you know, I mean, Mike offers a great perspective because he lives in that, you know,
Right.
lives there as well. So, you know, I don't know if like there's another section that we want to get some input from, but that's like 4 families right there.
That might be a good way to start. Maybe we kind of bring in a small initial group. I mean, obviously the other concern is then you've runaway rumors of all this stuff's gonna happen. So we have to be kind of clear to them. that
Yeah.
we're bringing you in early to get some input, and nothing's set in stone, but we want early feedback.
Mike,
Yeah.
does Judd Weatherall still live across the street from you? The house
I'm not,
up
that's,
the hill, you know, with that kind of hidden behind?
oh, that big house, is that who that is? I don't even know.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
all right. 'Cause I know Judd, but I just don't see him enough to really know if he's there or not, so.
Well, yeah, we've got next door neighbors too. I could talk to, I haven't said anything to them. They have a young family, so they'd probably be good to talk to also.
Okay.
All right, so Katie, you're gonna work on those changes for us, and that'll probably require an update on the cost as well. I know a while back you had presented some potential estimates on the cost of the project.
Yes.
So if you could update those for us, and then I guess the next step would be, do we do renderings next, and then this little focus group?
I think
Yes.
it would be good to have the renderings for the focus group.
So Katie, then do you want to set that? Would it be helpful tonight to kind of set in stone where we're looking for the renderings, or I mean, how do you want to move forward with that part?
I guess what I can do is just maybe cut a section and then send it over to you and see if it's what you're thinking before taking it too far.
Okay.
I mean, if there were a particular family you were just thinking of, if you want to give me their street address and I can, you know, make sure it's right in front or close to their home.
That's a good idea.
I jotted down 27 Beechwood Road. But I could.
Yeah,
like you
that
were-
one. And then 43, they're kind of across from the school.
Okay.
And then, I don't know your address, Mike, but then that other one,
212.
that other family, it's right next to the swim club. It's a white house, like it's the last house before the entrance to the swim club.
I'm looking it
Okay.
up real quick.
I can take a look at those and send those to you ahead of time too. And then I'll update cost estimates and then these concept plans as well. Okay.
My Zoom meeting's eating up all my internet. I can't get the GIS to open up to get those addresses.
Wonder- It should be like 227, maybe. What's your address, Mike?
Didn't know.
Well,
I had the house listed next to it. I just can't remember what it is, but
I should know that one off the top of my head, but I do not.
243 maybe. It's kind of set closer to the road.
Yeah, it's a white house. It's the last house. If you're coming from the school, it's the last house before you get to the swim club. 243.
Okay, 243.
And that would be good too. Actually, you could probably get either the intersection with Prather or the intersection with Anna Jokes. I think we spec the crosswalk at one or both of those. So that might be close enough to there to kind of work that into the rendering, I guess.
yeah, I have an email from that Bill guy at 243, and he's like, is there any plan to do anything to make this road safer? Like that's what every email since 2015. So, you know, I think we can kind of, I don't want to like call him out specifically, but quote, you know what I mean? Quote some of the emails, and those other two families were people that I know had expressed interest and then grew frustrated at our speed hump ordinance, you know, the way that worked. So at least these are people we know have complained and expressed interest in doing something to make the road better.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Well, I think, is that clear enough on your end, Katie?
I think so. I'll put something together here and send it just to you, Andrew, and then you'll circulate, correct?
Will do.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Great.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Anybody
Thank
else?
you, Katie, as always.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right, so the other thing I had, Kim, is you had asked me to add a line on near miss and sight lines.
Yeah, I'll just make this quick. So just, you know, walking more, and Matt does a great job. There's a couple of targeted areas where he goes out every so often and trims things up, bushes and things like that. One of them being at St. John's Ridge and Dixie Highway. You know, that stretch is always getting overgrown. But I've just noticed that, you know, it's great. We have a lot of mature trees, but there's a couple of intersections that are pretty, the sight line's pretty bad. Like when you approach if you're heading north on Dixie Highway, and as you approach the crosswalk or where you would push the button at Kroger and Dixie, like there's a good sized tree in the landscaping there that people can't see as you approach, you know, and a lot of people are doing like a continuous right turn. So just, you know, a lot of times I email these to Matt. I don't know. We had talked at one point in time, like maybe a year ago, about somehow having an ordinance that helps us to address this more permanently down the road. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I just thought I'd bring it up again. You know, I don't know if we currently have something where you can't plant anything within a certain distance. Like I know Pleasant Ridge tends to get overgrown there. You know, as you're approaching the crosswalk. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just writing myself a note here. Yes. So off the top of my head, I don't know that we have any ordinance that says that you can or that you can't plant within the sight line. But I'll look into that to confirm. And if not, I'll see if I can find any examples from other areas to
Okay.
cover that.
You know, and part of what brought that up about a year ago was, you know, there's that section from Ridge St. John's almost to West Orchard, where there's, you know, somebody planted a ton of honeysuckle years ago. And every year they don't even maintain it anymore. If we didn't do it, nobody would. And that sidewalk is already small anyway. Right. So just trying to avoid, I don't know. It just, you know, it's a bigger picture issue when it comes to keeping the sidewalks clear and sight lines and things like that.
So yeah, and that one's one that has kind of been on my mind. We've been doing a little bit of a study on like gateways to the city.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones we looked at is Fort Side and Dixie, and really just the sidewalk, other than by Crumpleman and between St. John's and Fort Side. Other than that, really the sidewalk on that side of Dixie is just not
awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst bit of sidewalk we have.
Mm-hmm.
Followed closely by the opposite side when you get maybe, I don't know,
by Leathers,
and then also probably between Virginia and Reckford. So at least Virginia, I think there's still about 4 or 5 inches of curb left. So, and you're right. The people have planted it, and then all of a sudden it became our responsibility to keep the sidewalk clear, and it really should not be.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what we can or can't do. It's just something that, you know, every spring when stuff starts to bloom, when you're out there walking and running, it comes up. So, just wanted to keep it, you know, figure out if there is a solution or what that solution looks like.
I'd be curious, Mike, you might know this from the state perspective, but like, I'm sure the state has regulations. Like if you wanted, because one of the things, for instance, on our Gateway project is talking about planting those, I call them traffic triangles, whatever they're really called, on the ramps that are gravel now. And I'm sure the state has some kind of standard as far as if you're going to plant, you know, if we allow you to plant in there, it has to be
Yeah, that's basically side triangles is that's what they call it. And it's all set up that way where it's where you're at the stop bar and they have, you've got to be able to see so far in each direction depending on the speed.
Gotcha.
So who owns the trees that are in the way and things, Kim? Is it it's all on private property and it's just,
Yeah. So like the one at Kroger, that's at the top of the, it's at that weird little parking lot that's attached to the bank, like by
Right.
the bus stop, and the other things they're all on private property or they're in right of way, probably.
Yeah.
So
if they're in right of way,
it-
you can do whatever you want. If they're on private, sometimes it really should be permitted when they're doing the development because all the landscaping's got to be in the building permit. And all that should be looked at ahead of time, but sometimes they miss it. But I would say
well, in some of these areas, like, I mean, that house has been there since 1967. You know what I mean? The old Applegarth house or whatever. So, and then the near miss that I just wanted to make everybody aware of, and this might be an area that we need to focus on more. So about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I was sitting outside at Camparosa, and when you come out of the parking lot between Camparosa and Little Flower, some kids were riding on their bikes and heading north on Dixie Highway, and the car has to go pretty forward before they can even see to pull out onto Dixie, but that's over the sidewalk, and like this kid came that close to getting hit by the car coming out of that. It's one of those ambiguous areas where it's road and sidewalk all at once,
Right.
and I don't know what can be done, but I just thought it's worth mentioning.
So in that particular spot, though, you should be able to see, like the driver pulling out. The kids were heading north. You said, or the kids were heading?
The kids were heading north from, and because you should be able to see, but if there's cars parked in front of Little Flower and all that, you can't see.
I was thinking you were saying the kids were heading south. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You should be able to see them. You should be able to see the kids if they're heading south, but no, if they're heading north, they're blocked by the building. So you can those out there.
So, I'm not sure if there's, something that can be done there, even if it's a sign that says, I don't know. I just thought, hey, we need to look at that. That's all.
Painted, even like a stop bar in the parking lot, and a sign says like, we have that at Beach. Well, we used to. It might not be there anymore. Beechwood and Dixie, the stop here before turning or something like that to kind of indicate, because the trolley right away that always becomes an issue.
Yeah, and maybe even like a couple of yellow stripes or something. I mean, I don't want to paint up the whole town, but just something that reminds people to stop before pulling out.
Hey, there is a couple things that I was thinking, like when you're walking on Dixie, like say from Sunnymead to Kroger on the sidewalk on my side, Greenbrier side, there's some of those trees that are hanging over the sidewalk. I mean, they're pretty tall and it actually gives a lot of shade around that area. But I didn't know if we wanted to trim them back, and they've been like that probably for 15 years or so, but and then if you want to do anything like that or just keep them the way they are, because if there's kids riding bikes, if they would hit them or not, but I'm sure they probably figured it out that they're there and duck your head.
Yeah, they're getting.
Yeah.
I'll have folks take a look.
I know, actually, the Greenbrier intersection, that one house that's always tends to have, a lot of signage and things like that. Like that's their shrubs get kind of big, and you can't, when you're pulling out of Greenbrier, as you're pulling up, you can't see that there's people on the sidewalk either. That's one of, almost every intersection except for 2 probably has a sightline issue.
And Mike,
unfortunately, go ahead.
Where did you say those trees were? I'm sorry, between Greenbrier and Kroger?
If you go from really Superior all the way to Kroger, like Superior to, Sunnymead to Superior, there's that little stretch there that are hanging over. And then from, I guess, Woodlawn to Beechwood, there's a couple of trees that are hanging over there too.
We'll have to check that.
I think I agree with you in that section too. We've been riding bikes a lot. And then Kim, over by you, that section's really bad. Right across from, I guess, where the paint shop is and the bike shop, kind of that
Mhm.
first block there, like that, I felt uncomfortable just being on that. It's because it's out into the sidewalk, and I feel like the sidewalk's only like 3 feet wide and you've got the traffic just zipping by. So that's the other spot.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful there.
It's horrible.
I mean, I think honestly, I guess a big opportunity, but also a big cost is the Dixie Highway sidewalks, particularly, those sections where you're down to what, 1 or 2 inches sometimes of curb. I don't know if sidewalk is sunk or it's pavement's been added over the years or what it is, but that, especially in that section, in combination with the fact that the bushes push you so close to the road, it's not good.
Mhm.
I mean, it almost feels like if a foot of honeysuckle came out, that would be, and
Right.
again, but yeah, because I think there's more sidewalk there. It just, at this point, it's got so much dirt and garbage on it,
Yeah, man.
you know?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Okay.
So that was all I wanted to say for 4.
I did have one more update that I forgot to include on the agenda, but the lights at the intersection of Highland and Dixie are scheduled to be done by Duke, the street lights, next week. So hopefully they're still on schedule with that, but we're going from, I think it's 1 or 2 lights in that intersection now that are the old sodium whatever bulbs. We're going to, I think it's a total of 5 LED light fixtures that'll be in that intersection. So we're hoping that's a big step in improving some of those near misses that occurred at that intersection, particularly in the morning hours when late fall, winter, and I guess early spring when it's not sunny, when the kids are on their way to school in the morning.
Do you think, will we be able to have an officer do the crosswalk if school opens up?
We're trying to get a cadet hired to be able to do that. But we did have to cut back to just 1 cadet versus 2. So I'm trying to figure that out as to whether it'd be feasible to schedule that cadet, for a couple hours
Gotcha.
every day versus, because the idea with 2 was that I could kind of, flip flop them, especially if they're college students, like if one of them doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, the other doing Tuesday, Thursday classes, or different schedules. Or whatever,
Sure.
so we are working on that.
Okay. I know you are.
But yeah,
Real quick, to circle back to Beechwood, I pulled up I guess the contract with Bearbecker, and it says that they've got 2 renderings for each alternative. So I would say you probably have 4 renderings covered already with the scope that they had.
yeah, I do, and I think we've just spent a significant portion of the budget already, but I think we put more in for this year.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then 2, I'd say the timing of it, I'd say you've got plenty of time, because I'm assuming that you'd want to go for grant money, and the cycle with OKI just ended. So you've got really probably another almost full year to get the grant application together and get everything done. So I think Kim's idea to kind of wait until everything's back in full swing and people can see what the traffic and parking look like again is a good idea.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I can kind of brainstorm a little bit more and kind of write down some thoughts and stuff about what led us to this point. You know what I mean? As I said, I was very tired and I just took a nap before this, and so I'm just now waking up, to be honest.
I can do that as well. I know that I've got a couple of different things I can.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I just think we have to be so prepared, because I think, what I learned from that last go round when I even wanted to talk about sidewalks on Beechwood Road, that, if we do it too soon, which I think we're more prepared than last time, but, people are going to shoot it down quickly without being prepared. So.
Perfect. I have us down for another meeting before the July meeting, but we can, if you want to move that to August, you think that makes more sense, or if you want to have it next month. I know we had talked about doing monthly. I'm good with whatever. We're kind of getting things back on track.
Yeah, I will be on vacation that day, so feel free to meet without me, but I will not be here.
What do you guys think, Mike and Mike?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm available if we need to do it. Want to do it.
Yeah, same here. I'm available, and if it's totally up to you guys.
Well, let's keep it on the schedule for now. We'll see if we have a response with anything from Katie before then, and hopefully we're done with tweaks. But maybe if there's anything we need to tweak and we've got a response, we can address it and then start talking about how to get this focus group together.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want that to look.
Yeah, because I don't want to lose any momentum. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So,
Perfect.
okay.
All right. Well, I will see two of you here in just a few minutes on the next meeting.
Got it.
It's going to be a few minutes. I got to go reboot my modem because my internet's awful right now.
All right,
Cool.
thanks, guys. It was good talking
All
to you.
right.
Thanks, Mike Yeager. All right. See you in a bit. Bye.